guys, and welcome back here to another tutorial of the Dev Realm. And today we are carrying on with our series about building our modular car. And in the last episode we created this list here, which has we automatically loading this data, created some kind of a dynamic and some animations in here. And today we're gonna be working with the place callbacks and maybe start even to set up the camera here so we can start to move things around. So just one last thing here that I want to do is that right now this thing is very junky. I want to make sure that those animations they fade out when you open the widget. So what I'm going to do here, the easiest ways to do is just I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste, and on the event pre-construct I'm just going to attach that here. Make sure you play in reverse, compile and save, and now press V, everything hides as it should. So everything black, and then it fades out. And yeah, that's it. So let's do the callback now. So there's a couple of issues that we have to fix it right now, which is related that we need to pass to this widget here the component reference. So when you click on the list, when you click on this button, we can trigger stuff in the modular car here. So let's just organize this project. Let's just call handle the build parts widget. And the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm compile and save, and I am going to create a new graph. And this graph here that I'm going to create, I'm going to call the build modular car system. Nice. Compile and save. Really cool. And in here, what we want to do is that we want to create an event that we're going to call custom event start place mode. And we're going to call this API. Maybe let's call a better name. So start building car mode or something like this, which is something very, very specific for this. Great, so we're gonna do a print here for now, and we need to make sure we call this before we can actually make the logic and set up all this stuff. So when we are loading this widget here, remember that we did something that we load some information, and on the in here we need to pass these widgets to the event, to this main widget here. So what I'm saying is that we need to pass the reference of BPC modular car to this widget, so then we can pass this reference from that to this list, which means that when the player click on the place, we can do stuff with it. Right, so let's do this. So the first thing we need to do, we're gonna go to graph, we're gonna go to variables, we're gonna create here a new variable, and we're gonna call this, let's call this the BPC modular car ref. And this is going to be the component, so let's search for BPC modular car reference, and it's going to be a single array, and that's it. We're going to compile and save, make sure it's public, and also make sure it's exposed to spawn. And now we're going to go back to this, and we need to go to widgets. And if you remember, we have this widget that when we open up the build selection, we can just press refresh. And now we can pass here self as a reference. Cool, that's all done. Now on the WBP list item, if we go to graph, we need to create here a new variable, and we're gonna call this, let's call WBP, BPC modular car or something like this. I'm going to call BPC modular car, that. Make sure it's public, and also make sure you set this to expose and spawn. It's really great. And that's it, that's all good. Next thing that you want to do here is that you want to access, so when you press this, it triggers the callback in there. But before we can do this, we need to pass the reference in here as well. So when we are loading that, I'm just going to refresh this. We're going to pass this reference there, and compile and save. Now let's create the callback event. So now if you click on the button, we have place. And what we can do here, when you click the button, what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna trigger an event. First of all, let's just do a print and let's make sure that our modular car here is actually valid. Let's see if it's working. Yeah, sounds good to me. Nice. So the next thing that I want to do here is that, if you remember, we have created a callback here called API start building car mode or something like that. So we're gonna click here and we're gonna call API start building car mode. Nice. We're gonna compile and save. And now if you did everything right, we should see a hello in that. Nice. Now let's just do one more thing here. Let's just change this color of this button to something a little bit more easy to, more nice. Let's just get here tint color. Let's put something like a yellow color. Maybe that's too much. Place. And when you hover, there you go. Just wanted to change the color of that so it looks a little bit better. Right, so now we got this, we got the hello button, everything is working. Now let's start to set up our player so it can handle those kind of feedback. So what I want to do here is that there's many ways you can actually do this, but we are trying to build here something where our player can place something in the car on the top of the, so you can build the car. So the idea here is that using the camera and the mouse, we can come here, press place, and then we have the wheel, and then we have the cube here in the word, and then we can place that and build our car, and then we come here, press a button, play, and then we can play the car around. So that's the idea here. So to do this, we need to somehow be able to control the player camera. And to control the player camera, we need to set up the player widget camera or something like this. Right. So what we're going to do here is that we are going to create an interface to do this, because once again, I am trying to make the system most reusable as possible, so it's easy for you to export on your project and also, you know, just make this a little bit better. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to go to modular car, and first I'm going to select where is this car location here, and I am going to right click here, and I'm going to create a new folder called component. I'm just going to organize this, so I'm going to move this to the component, and we're going to create another folder here called game mode. And the reason why I'm doing this is just so we know that game mode has the game mode and the player controller. We know the component is a component and blueprints are blueprints, and so on. So now let's create here an interface that we're gonna call to bring the player camera reference so we can treat that. So to do this, we're gonna go to blueprint. We're going to create a new blueprint here interface, and we're going to call BPI modular car, and that's it. I'm going to press save here. And actually what we could do here is that we could duplicate that and call here BPI character modular car. And one is going to be related to the character, and the other one is going to be related to this blueprint if we need to. I'm not sure if I'm going to need this one for now, but let's open up the BPI character modular car. And here, what I want to do here is I want to return the player camera information. And the way you can actually do this dynamically is that you could also cast, you can gather information, but using the interface give us the power of always return true information, so we don't have to worry when we switch to new characters, as long as we follow the same setup steps. So I'm going to show what I mean here. So I'm going to create here interface, and I'm going to call this return character camera, and that's it. Camera. Actually, it's going to be the camera, boom, not the camera. Yeah. And I'm gonna compile and save, and we're gonna have output here. And I don't know the type that I'm gonna return. I just know the name, so it's gonna be camera boom here, and we need to find the name. So let's check which one is the type that we're trying to return. So we're gonna go to blueprints. Oh yeah, so that's in third person, blueprints. How does Unreal Engine call this? Let's have a look. So we have camera bone, and is the type of. It doesn't necessarily has a type, does it? Spring arm component object reference. So that's what we need to return. So let's see if you have these types. It's going to be spring arm. There we go. So we have spring arm component, and it's going to be the object reference. Great. So we're going to compile and save. Now on the character here, one thing you got to do here is that we need to add this interface to our player POM, so we can return the information, so we know where is the camera, and then from that we can get the camera line trace, we can get a bunch of stuff. There's one thing here as well that we need to add here, which is we're gonna add the camera reference. So it's gonna be camera, and in here, how do we call that? Let's double check. It's just called, how is the object name? Camera component. There we go. So we can call this camera component object reference. Great, so it's all set. Let's go back to the player here, and let's go to class settings. Let's add an interface. Let's search for BPI. There we go. Car. This one here, the character modular car. Let's press compile and save. And now you're gonna see here that we have some information in the interface. So if I click in here, it's gonna ask for two variables. First one is the camera boom. Second one is the camera information. And then from here, we can handle that. That's all the information we need from the character. If you've been following the series so far, we had another tutorial where we did a placement mode. I did something similar, but on that case I did everything in the character. And right now what I'm trying to do here is take this to the next level and actually create an interface to access just the data I need to handle everything on my component. So now what we gotta do here is we need to when we press, where is it? Press play here, we need to somehow add a widget to the player to say that he's on placement mode. So he has picked up that part and now he's on placement mode. So let's do this one really quickly, and then after the next series and the next episode, we're gonna put all the pieces together and maybe start to move the camera and things like that. So to do this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our modular car system. We're gonna go to widget. I'm gonna right click here. I'm gonna create a new folder, and I am gonna call this target, and then I'm gonna create another one here, and I'm gonna call this items list or something, just so I know more or less what folders, what we're trying to do here. Now on the target, we're gonna create a blueprint. Let's call this WBP target point or something like that. Let's open up that blueprint. All we're gonna do here is we're gonna get a canvas, bring the canvas that. We're gonna get a border, and we're gonna bring this border to the center. And the reason why I'm using a border instead of using an image is because I don't have a quick image to use. So I'm just gonna use a border here. And let's make this small, something like that. Here, something like this size. And what you can do here, maybe you could put like opacity. You can play with opacity. Oh, no, that's the opacity here. Well, am I changing the right? Oh yeah, sorry, I'm changing the wrong one. I need to change this. There we go. Let's do something like this. So 0.5 of opacity, and compile and save. And now is when you press place, we're going to trigger this widget. To do this, we're going to go back to the widget list. So we have here the building list widget logic or something like this. We're just going to put like a green color. And here we have, this is just handle the game mode. So we can put this in purple or something. And now let's create another one. Let's create a custom event. And let's call this toggle point widget, right? And now we're gonna create a new variable here called is point widget open or something. Make sure it's a boolean. Let's change this to a single. Yeah, and we're gonna add this inside a category called the point widget or reference widget or crosshair or something like that. Now we're gonna do a branch, and for this case we can do something much more simple. So we're gonna create a widget. Nope, wrong one. Create widget. The widget that we're looking for is this start point. That. So we're gonna plug this widget here. We're gonna make sure you create as a variable, so it's gonna be called point widget ref. Let's put this here, and now we're gonna get that here. I'm just gonna remove from parent. There we go. And also, just before we remove from parent, let's make sure this is valid, just to avoid any problems in case we try to in the future replicate this to network or something, right? And what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna set this variable to false, and here we're gonna set to open, right? So basically what we need to do here is just the other way around. Actually, what you can do that is just called not boolean, put it in there, and that should work. Now the way you can trigger that is, let me just to clean up some spacing here. Now if you remember, we have this method start building mode. So what we can do here is call API toggle building widget, compile and save. Let's press play. And didn't work. Let's check why it haven't worked. Oh yeah, because I'm calling the wrong method. I need to call API toggle point widget mode. I was calling the wrong widget. And let's do that. And let's check if that works. Let's check what's going on here. So let's put a debug here. Let's check if it's going to the wrong place. Yeah, it is going. Oh yeah, I forgot about a very important thing here, which is basically we need to make sure that we add to viewport, otherwise you won't be able to see the widget. And let's plug everything back, file and save. And there you go, guys. So you can see that we have the little cube there, and also if you press place again, it hides. And the reason why we have that place here is because in the next video we're going to be using that to change the camera location in relation to the player, so it'll be much more easier to place those parts in the game. So once again, guys, I know this video got a bit longer, but I think was very good. We got to a nice point here, and I see you in the next one.